re-look at guilds as the social heart of their game, because it is where the drama happens. It's where the best inner connections are occurring. It's where everything good and also bad about this game is being included.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Hi, I am Groco, the Guildmaster of Entity on Mal'Ganis US. I have been the Guildmaster and founder since 2015 on this server specifically, and previously a guild leader in another iteration stretching all the way back to 2011. I have been on and off in some stages of the game, hence some hiccups with the guild leadership and not having a full-length career, so to say, on that. I have dealt with probably every single HR issue that you could ever imagine happening and more in my tenure as a guild leader. I initially started being an early raider, getting kind of a weird treatment, or sometimes not the most appreciated treatment. That's that origin story, so to say, but kind of pushing back to the earlier moments of my WoW career was, you start off with this intention, like, I like this class, and then maybe you see a different class, and you're like, oh, that's going to be it. For me, coming out of the Warcraft 3 world, Arthas' storyline was super hooked on that. When I finally got World of Warcraft, the goal at that time was Wrath of the Lich King. I'm going DK. That's it. 55 Rogue, bam, I'm off of it, and I'm right to Death Knight. And I have literally been a Death Knight consistently for every single tier, every single expansion since that moment. That was 2008, 9-ish. Finding out about the game strictly through him, mainly out of Warcraft 3. Like I said, was Warcraft 3 veteran on that one. Playing Dota and all of the mod creations that were out of that. Coming from an RTS background where, Empire Earth and all of that were my mainstay of games, introduction to WoW was so much I was a casual that didn't know what to do. Going Death Knight off the top, that made me even more the subject to being trolled and etc. And through that process, you kind of find this game has the best and the worst aspects of gaming. You can go through Barons as you're questing as level 19 on, for my case, the Rogue, and run into a priest that you end up playing with the entire time that you guys level, getting into Wrath, doing the Wrath of the Lich King raids together, and having that buddy that you're like, dude, I met this guy in the Barrens. I don't know this person in real life, but this is the WoW real friend. There's a collection of those individuals that, unfortunately, as the game has gotten through its iterations of expansions, have just left. They're just no longer going to be here. They don't play anymore. Went over to a different game. But it's those that actually probably pushed me forward to making a guild in the first place, and it was just, hey, we need a place that isn't going to treat us the way that we got treated. You're the one person that unfortunately can get everyone together on the same time, so we're going to make you that guy. That's kind of those foundings. Back then it was corruption, and that was on a dead server. Shout out to Nord Rossel. That right there, being a casual player on a somewhat dead server, or in this case completely dead server, you definitely learn that your skill cap won't raise in some cases, at least back then. And so eventually would lead me to Mal'Ganis, is you go on enough dead servers that you realize, wow, this is why progress is this way. And you just kind of get to a certain point where you're on the next server where you finally find a home, and this has been that since 2015. Silvermoon is by far one of my favorite places in Warcraft because of not only the architecture of this place is beautiful. I'm waiting for the day that you can finally have a flying mount actually fly here. I'm waiting for the day this gets a little bit of a retouch like they've been doing with a lot of the other places. The lore of the Blood Elves is by far one of the most Warcrafty kind of stories captured in a bottle. A faction that is literally torn between sides consistently, and then also made its own. They struggle for their own survival while being pressed against the edge. And I mean, they have nothing behind them to fall back upon. This is the last refuge of their society, of their civilization. and they hold it with ferocity, and it is a part of their culture. And every single moment of you questing from level 1 all the way to 20, going through the entire Silvermoon quest chains, doing all of this starting zone for Ghostlands was amazing. The storyline was a great way to engage a Blood Elf character into why they needed to join a faction, and having the knowledge of the lore from Warcraft 3 and knowing their treatment by the Alliance, you feel almost isolated from being considered the conventional faction. And that's why they're constantly this fixture. They're faced with their addiction challenge, which I think a lot of people can kind of identify with in some cases. Like, this is something that drags them entirely and forces them to live their lives restricted by this one element. But in the recent years of Warcraft lore, they have been Lothamar has the leading guy for us all, and an actual war leader in the Horde. He's been the only person with enough sense to try to make something tangible and enforce some type of order. After Vol'jin and Sylvanas, I was really hoping that we would get a war chief again, and maybe that was going to be Lothamar. So personally, I'm a big Sylvanas anti-one. Lothamar should have been war chief, hands down, after Legion or during Legion. Going back onto this core reason, though, I would say for them would be the tenacity of Silvermoon itself. Despite its challenges, despite being pressed against every possible front line that they have, they continue to persist, they continue to expand, and they continue to wage war against the foes of who they've allied with. And that says a lot about the faction in itself. So, as I said, I am the Guildmaster of Entity on Mal'Ganis. I've been the GM since 2015 at its founding. I run it with an incredibly great crew of people. I have gone through a lot of officers just through time, people playing the game, people not able to play, that removes them from that position, various things, But in all of the time that I've played WoW, I think today and the last few years I've had some of the best officers I've ever had. None of them I know in real life, physically, in the same way that a lot of guilds are ran, where it's close friends, IRL, get together maybe on an actual night and have that. But none of them they're geographically located opposite to me. I don't think that makes any difference in the friendship that we've built over running this. I would say that our guild is different in that I'm a process-oriented GM, and a lot of my guys call me a dick or call me strict for a variety of reasons. And the reason mainly is that there's a way of my expectations being set and how we should be matching those, how we present to this game, and also that belief goes into the core value of how we should really just play as a community. I've always believed that entity members should always play to the best of their abilities and show the colors the same way that they're showing their own professionalism in this game. I know that sounds stupid because it's a game, but when we all kind of play with a little bit more of a professional approach, we're willing to ask questions, we're willing to engage in trying to go through the mechanics. We ask you, have you never done this? Okay, cool. Well, let's quickly, here's what you have to do, and try to teach from those points. We should always be leading from those front lines instead of being what we've all encountered, which is you don't know this stuff and you're unwilling to, you're willing to learn, but you don't know it. Well, go Google it and then come back to us once you've cleared the progress afterward. There's a little bit of a disconnect between the more hardcore players and casual players, and I've done a lot to emphasize where that's something I enjoy having a fusion of hardcore players and casual players, and the people that I've surrounded myself with believe that even more than I do, and that makes me as a GM stronger because of the officers I have around me. Running a guild is incredibly painful for a lot of reasons, that if you're not willing to come to this game and sit down and not play, but instead bash your keyboard because you need to talk to someone that has interpersonal issues that may or may not compromise, the cohesion of your raid team. Those are things that you will have to deal with as a GM. And if you're unwilling to take that and go deal with that issue, you're probably going to get labeled as toxic. You're probably going to get labeled as someone that's unwilling to have a conversation. You're probably also going to have a poor retention of members. And I say that from having been that type of GM where I don't really have time for your issues. I don't care. I'm willing to kick you first before I'm willing to do any type of conversation. Like that's a common thing that you get. You can have good conversations with people, and there are definite red lines where if you cross this, then I'm sorry, but you're out. There's definitely going to be toxic people that will bring down your guild in the moment that if they stay, they're just going to make it rot. A lot of people think that GMing is like a guild bank that they get to withdraw funds from. It's a guaranteed space on their raid team. It's a guaranteed group of people that they can demand to play with them. And when people treat guilds like that, it sucks. And you lose guilds. I've had ours for so many years because I've worked with the people in our guilds. And I'll be fair, I've lost dozens of members in what people would say is like a guild killing moment. I've lost hundreds of members because of factionization. Those are facts that you're going to have to deal with, and if you're unwilling to plan out your recovery from those moments, then you're not fit to do this shit either way as well. Shadowlands, any guild that survived through Shadowlands and kept a consistent team, I got to give you props because that was hard. We had to go through 4 different teams recruiting almost every single raid tier, and after we got it on farm, then you're having to recruit more because the people that you farmed with are now over it and now want to go do something else, or they're off to Final Fantasy. You struggled with that consistently, and me as a GM seeing the struggles that we all had to face, if you survived Shadowlands and dealt with those same issues, then you are probably living strong right now in Dragonflight. You should always be ready to evolve, because I am definitely not the guildmaster that I was when I was a 19-year-old kid. I'm not the GM that I was when I was 25. I play with my age range, which is essentially the same guys that played this game when they were 18, 16, when they first got into this. These guys all have kids now. So it's a process. You're not it's very rare that you're going to find 18-year-old kids that just slam this game all day. I at least in my recruitment pushes with a 700 plus member guild, it's been hard to find people that still play like that. There's a rare body of it, and the people that normally play like that are going to be isolated to key servers that have that culture. You asked me what's a guild story. I've had to deal with HR issues that are a nightmare. I've had to deal with someone that, now this is a male to male and it was clearly a joke, but it was a genitalia picture that was just a joke, and you had to deal with that. How do you deal with that in that moment? To log into Discord and be like, yo, so this happened. This guy sent this over to him. So there's weird things like that. If you have a guild that's a lot of people, you're gonna deal with a lot of shit. I'm trying to think of legit stories. I think the best stories I have are of the people that I've met. There's always these wild ass stories of people that do wild end things. But I mean, right now, dude, we got this kid in our guild, and he's the only kid in our guild. But for the last 8 months, he's been in the hospital. He has massive health issues, and it's this. I don't know how to explain it better than saying we've been more entwined in people's stories. In our guild, our raiders are really tight-knit. A lot of them have been from last tier. Some of them I have literally carried over from Legion that have raided with me for that long. And we've gone through the ups and downs on it, and I've got plenty of veterans that are just fucking awesome. Just awesome people. They don't want to be an officer. Maybe they do, and they don't talk about it, and that's totally fine. But you build these weird connections with people in this game, and I think those supersede the best of the worst bullshit stories. This kid's got health issues, and we're probably the only outside connection to quote unquote friends that he has in this moment. And so that's something that we actively, you've got 100 people actually worried about the kid's well-being. If he doesn't pop in Discord and post a message, we're like, yo, dude, at and where the fuck are you? Make sure you're still good. And he's talked to someone in our guild, one of my officers who has a medical background, and kind of got a little bit of help from him in a couple cases. Would say he's kind of my co-GM, but Blitz and his wife, when they were having their first child, I sent him over a Murloc bag as a baby carrot, like for breast milk and etc. snacks and whatever not. Granted, it got turned into a beer carrier every once in a while, but that's okay, right? But it's I've built more connections with people and learned their stories over the weirdest things. So I got stories of like an ex-raider of mine that was a tank that I would not allow to tank unless he got high. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Dude could not tank for shit unless he was stoned out of his mind. The problem was he so stoned that he could tank, but not too stoned that he'd end up falling asleep in his chair. And it was always this weird balance we had to figure out. I had another guy that blacked out drunk while playing, and that was the reason why we beat Cindergosa. He somehow, some way, healed the whole thing through, and it was a clutch play. You're gonna have this weird mix of folks, and it's always, I think the most fun thing about being a GM is like balancing all of these things, all of these people, all of their intricacies and nuances. And like when you're in my position, GM and also raid lead of the team, you have a more direct like 20 people that you interact with, but then the whole guild as an entirety is again this like small nuanced interactions of like, this guy's been in the guild for so long, never raids, but because he's such a hardcore casual in our guild, like, respect his opinion, like, let's hear what you have to say, I'm interested in like your idea and vision for what we should be doing next, like what's some more that we can bring to the table. But oh my god, dude, it is like being on this balance board. The loot rules this tier, fuck that shit. That is the biggest GM nightmare, raid leader nightmare, like, scenario they could have given us this tier. Dude, I lost 5 in my first 3 weeks. It was chill because I had 25 people, so fuck it, right? That's the thing. Like, dude, I could talk from a position of like, as GM, like raid lead, like why did you take away my gold in Cataclysm? How do I get people to donate to a guild? Like, dude, how do you get people to do these specific things and try to gain like these audiences without having to rely on your core raid team? It's some of the things that like you never hear people talk about, never see them do. It's so, I've got ways of doing it. I've got tax systems. Like I have systems, but I'm always interested in like someone's position on how they approach their financial challenges, because I think it's bullshit that we got to pay $20 to get a WoW token. So it's, do you have hardcore farmers? Are you the fucking financer of it? I would say logins about day to day. There's a couple days I might miss here or there, but it's about every day I'll log in, even if it's for just a couple minutes. Check bank, check auction house, kind of go through the guild logs, see what's going on there. I would say I'm an active daily user, though. A lot of that comes to kind of like regularized schedules, and even further having like planned out, here is what we're all doing. A lot of back end coordination. So Tuesday and Wednesdays, it's raid nights. I'm doing that with the team, and that's taking from 7:30 server time. And we push that until about 10 o'clock at night, and then we do that 2 nights in a row. Then Thursday night, I'm probably logged in doing some type of jewel crafting work or some type of like in the guild, maybe some keys. That's normally when the guild runs its RBG nights or just run-of-the-mill BGs, PvP type of stuff. Friday, if I do log in, that's keys with the guys and a lot of the other members of the team, trying to push our keystones, plus 15s. And then I would say Saturday, there's a running joke, I'm not allowed to be in the drunk raid. We have a scheduled Saturday night program. It has 2 names, alt raid / drunk raid. Alt raid being that it's, main tunes can bring their alts, or the other players that are in the guild can come in outside of the raid team, do normal, do heroic, whatever they're working on at that time, and just get that raid experience, be able to do it, and have some type of learning, but in an environment that's, one, totally inclined to having fun. That's why the drunk raid name is there. It's for you guys to just, sit down on a Saturday night, have some drinks, and sit in the raid group and have a good time. The main raid program on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and the drunk raid program have been the 2 consistent programs that we've maintained in this guild since almost its origination. It's just been a running theme. But in the later years, I'm not allowed to participate in the drunk raid, quote unquote, because I don't know how to have fun. So that's the running gag, and I'll be online and probably doing something more casual, like farming some ore, maybe rarely ever play an alt, but primarily just on my DK and doing various things around the area, whatever I can to try to bring up some more gold or find something random or get some more knowledge points. I'm loving the crafting system this tier, so the crafting system's been a fun knowledge point and has been able for me to like encourage individuals to learn the crafting system. I've been able to educate them a little bit more, and now we're getting into the intricacies of working that crafting system between the various specializations on like alchemy and a few of our enchanters. So for me, on a logistical standpoint, I'm fucking loving this because it's all of these puzzles to figure out. Let's go. Yeah, I would say raids are probably the most enjoyable in this game for me because it's with such a large group of people that I've had a long running history with, and then the newer people that come in very much get wound up into the culture that we have, and they just kind of steamroll into it and they all have a good time. So it's always fun to watch the growth. A lot of my members that were, in one case, they were what you would call bad, and now they parse incredibly well. They do incredibly well. They push their keystones to a high degree, and like their progression has been impressive. Them as players, nonetheless. And then outside of Mythics, I would say Mythic Plus can be a struggle. If you're pugging it, then you're probably hating it unless you're getting into great pugs because you've struggled through it. And I tend to take a hard line stance of I don't pug because I'd rather run a lower key and get my guildies up a bit than run with pugs. So those would be some of the stances that I have on like my content plays. I'm not always pushing for the highest tier. I'm always playing just because this game is somehow retaining its enjoyment. It's still doing it for me, apparently, so I'm still here. So what about this game that's kept me playing for so long? I would hands down say the social interaction. When you can find the right fit for you, it gives you a good reason to play the game. When you can stay consistent with a group of people that you play this game with, and you can keep up a good rotation of just doing content together at any level. Doesn't matter if you guys are just doing your base level mythics, but the social interaction has been the one thing that's kept me in this game. The only times I've ever taken a break from this game is when I felt or did not have the, quote unquote friends that and friendships that you develop in this game. Whether those people had gotten off the game or whatever it had been, the social interaction has always kept me in it. And even when I was, without a guild and looking to join someone else's, I would say that it would be the culture of that guild and the way that they were in general. Attitudes, social ability, all of those things are why I would say in the game. And I would encourage people to try to be more social in this game as well. I know it's kind of like weird and it can be freaky, but at the same time, people have no problem being as social as interacting with each other on TikTok/Instagram, whatever platform you want to say. But they have a problem in this game asking for help. They have a problem in this game trying to find the right community for them. They have a problem in this game just reaching out. They have one bad experience, and then that kind of shuts them down, and they start to kind of pocket themselves away. So I would say that's what keeps me in this game, but also a thing that Blizzard could improve upon is they have a lot of players with a lot of differing opinions on how they play this game and the way that they play this game. You're going to have people that strictly want to do lore master content, and that's it. They want to just do all of the quests, read all of the quest prompt, read all of the narratives, play every faction, every quest line they can. They want to learn because they're video game historians. That would have been my origin story. Got into raiding, that's a new introduction, and maybe, that might be a slow pace for them. That may not be that for them. They might get into Mythic Plus, they might love it. They might get into BGs and they love it there. But Blizzard needs to do more, but what is a great question, of implementation in this game. I would say that Cataclysm was the first real test of Blizzard to do anything with a guild that was bigger than just a collection of people in a named organization. Nothing truly sets any guilds apart from one another. Nothing outside of like their culture, what they can offer, and the progress of their teams. That's what they can offer. But in Cataclysm, we saw that you could have pets, you could have, profession items. You had a variety of things. Blizzard should re-look at guilds as the social heart of their game, because it is where the drama happens. It's where the best inner connections are occurring. It's where everything good and also bad about this game is being included in one. And it's a great social experiment for why this game has been successful. I mean, you can push expansion after expansion after expansion, but there's a reason why people keep coming back to this game. There's a reason why people have fond memories of Baron's chat, even though it was toxic. There's a reason why people have a resonance to this game. It was the first bigger introduction for a lot of people to an MMO, but also it's been a good facilitator for a lot of good pop culture moments. Leroy Jenkins to, you name it. I mean, it's there, and it's something that if you create a social environment and you foster that, you will have better engagement. Shadowlands was a test of them not doing anything with casuals, doing everything with Mythic Plus, and barely anything with rating. Before that, Battle for Azeroth, I mean, it had a little bit more, but every single time Blizzard takes away functionalities from the casuals and wonder why their subscription count dropped, that's their own fault. And that's them, that they should be looking to improve the systems that they had removed. I understand the guild leveling system was an arms race. Totally do. I understand that, again, coming from a stance of a GM, a lot of GMs treat their guild banks like their own personal gold depositories and withdrawals. Like they treat them as their own personal guild banks. And that's not the way that happens. It's not the way it should happen. That's for the guild sport, I'm not equipped to give them a tangible answer of a feature, but I am equipped to say that you have neglected a huge segment audience, which understandably you did that with the pursuit of trying to invigorate your audience by including Mythic Plus and emboldening that feature, which they did very well in Shadowlands. Now they need to really turn another eye back to their casual players. And that's, I think, why Dragonflight does really well as well. It has enough aspects there to get you back into the game. Any guild achievements that we're proud of would be, I would say that I personally am proud of how long this guild has sustained itself. It's had trials and tribulations like any guild will. I've suffered quote-unquote casualties in the sense of losing massive members in various reasons, whether it be the expansion or break-off elements. That's going to happen. Pride point is that it's survived in that I've built it with an incredible team. The people that I work with in building this guild is wonderful, and that's one pride point. Two, I would say our recruiting officer does one of the most insane recruiting jobs possible and can pull about 50-60 people in on a single day. I have never seen a guild as active as ours, at least in my own personal experience, and I know there's plenty of more active guilds, and I'm not saying ours is a threshold of that at all, but it's been an active guild, and I see a lot of the interactions and socialization that occurs. I see 40 plus members on average every day, and on certain days it peaks into the 70s and further. So it's nice to see 3, 4, 5 Mythic Plus groups that are all running a variety of keys. As a GM, I'm proud of that achievement, though. I have such a vibrant, large guild that gets along pretty well. I haven't had any big issues outside of the ones that you deal with regularly, which is just, competitive bickering. That is what it is. Finally, though, I'd say I'm proud of how many people have considered the guilds a home. I see that translated in the form of people putting nitros on Discord. Those are some of the things that I see where my Discord stands out a little bit further than some other guilds I've seen, where some people are legitimately invested into the Discord as a means of just saying, hey, I like it here. I like being a part of this group. And that makes me feel really proud. I know it does for a lot of other people, and I hope it makes them proud that they're a part of a guild that makes them feel like home. in your home and in game, so to say. So those are my achievements, and a lot of my achievements are the achievements of the people that I recruit or have others recruit into this guild and join us, and also to see them prosper in the ways that they have. We've never not gotten an AOTC. We've always guaranteed our delivery, always gotten the result there. That's just standard. That's what I always expect. I'm proud of what they do, though, which is engage and socialize and build families, so to say, quote unquote, families, in this guild that they call home. If you would like to share your story, follow this channel and join the Discord.